Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the official Trackmania channel for the coverage of the Trackmania Grand League Challenger Fall 2021 season. We're already at the halfway point of said season, with Step 4 set to start in about 15 minutes time, and you'll get to see the action live right here on this channel. Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Mengozzi, aka T-Geek. Super glad to welcome you again on the Trackmania channel for Challengers, and alongside me for today is none other than Kriti from Estonia. Welcome on the broadcast booth, Kriti. How you doing?
Oh, I'm feeling very excited. I already had a very exciting time already during the day, bit of practice for the cast, and now I'm for the main event as well. I'm really excited for this, and judging by what we've seen in the fast few steps, this step 4, it's going to be a banger, because this is going to be the final step before the first half, so I'm very excited to see how it unrolls, especially on the new map.
Yeah, indeed. For those of you who are new, who may not know who Kriti is, he's one of the Trackmania players and representative of Vortex Gaming, an organization based in Estonia. And he's also casted a little bit earlier today the Baltic Trackmania Cup, in which Morioka, one of your players, actually won the event ahead of Bits and ahead of SRK, who broke his 4th place curse. Bless him. And but yeah, of course, he's not the only. It's not his only TM casting experience. He's also casted the Baltic Amateur Trackmania League as well, the Trackmania tournament rather. And yeah, really excited to have you on board for this week. Of course, it's a pretty amazing week, of course, in terms of general action in Trackmania. With, well, you had the Baltic Trackmania Cup. You also have the Gamers Assembly that just concluded. We had Trackmania Formula League a little bit earlier on. And, of course, we have this final end of the weekend with the Trackmania Grand League Challenger and the Grand League. Speaking of Challenger, let's take a little bit, well, a bit of a reminder of the results for Step 3. Otak being your very first winner, other than Mime, in the Trackmania Grand League Challenger. 370 points for the Frenchman at the end of the step, 74 points collected over the course of the first 4 races, before winning a final round which wasn't exactly on the plan, according to himself, in the weekly show interview from Wednesday. Make sure to check out the VOD if you want to actually hear from a few words from Otak, Granadi, and from Scrappy as well on the YouTube channel of the Trackmania Grand League. But yeah, a bit of on the unexpected redemption from Step 2, where he played a little bit with fire, trying to go for bigger multipliers where it didn't pay out. And then on second place we find Cap, having scored 42 points in the first 4 races. He then won round 7, which is a level 4 multiplier, so he scored 168 points. And on the podium of Step 3, we have Mi4, 47 points over the course of the first 4 races, and then won round 6, which is a level 3 multiplier round, which allowed him to score 141 points. That's your top 3 for Step 3, Otak, Cap, and Mi4. Let's take a look at those standings at the end of Step number 3. In spite of a worse step compared to his previous ones, Mime is still in the lead of the standings with 802 points. Otak moves up to second and reduces the gap to 117 points between him and Mime. Otak second with 685 points. Hydra completes the podium with 428 points for MTP Esport. Cap and Mi4 complete the top 5. Evan, Razi, and Soldier complete the top 8. And the bottom 8 in that order is Wosile, Snow, Link, Dofalt, Energize, Nixaltica, Fegli, and Revo. Nixaltica from RBG Esports and not Eports, it must be noted. But yeah, the bit of a typo there, but just bear with us. And yeah, relatively speaking, it's still very close between the top 2, but I think you'll agree, Kriti, that there are plenty of hotspots in the ranking that are actually very much noteworthy.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at that the bottom half of the leaderboard as well, especially in 7th, 8th, 9th area as well. These are all people that have been trying to get those multipliers, trying to get those points in, but it's still eluding them. And Soldier and Wosal especially, they've been performing so well on average for their points, but that multiplier is just not there to make those points count. And everybody in the bottom is like, okay, this is Step 4, I really need those points. And if I don't get it now, it's just going to get infinitely more harder in the second half of the season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I tend to say hotspot, but yeah, there's one big hotspot you can notice from 7th to 11th place. 220 points for Razi, 195 for Link. There's just a 25-point difference. We're grouping 5 players. So yeah, those last points, those last playoff places are going to be decided pretty early, I think. Well, maybe in the next couple of steps. So it's going to be very important for some of these players to actually get on the saddle, so to speak, and try to get some big multipliers going. And same goes for, of course, for the top and bottom 3 at the bottom end of the scoreboard, who are, of course, subject to direct relegation, and they want to avoid that. Nixotica, Fegli, and Revolution. Revolution not having the strongest start of the season. Well, I say that, but it's a really big understatement. 33 points over the course of 3 steps. Revel not really feeling in the groove at all. And Exotica still within reach of Energize, but it's going to take some serious steps and some serious performances for him to climb back up the order.
Yeah, and we definitely have eyes on the US boys as well. They've been having a really rough time in the Challenger as well, but Exotica has been showing signs of life as well. The multiplier still evading him. He still hasn't gotten one, and Fekli, one of the new names that was talked early in the season as well, he's having a really rough time. But then again, we've already seen, you get that one amazing step in, and you're already halfway across the leaderboard, and you could be already on your way to play on that top row as well and keeping your position in the league.
Yeah, well, we briefly mentioned playoff, but I guess we can actually remind how the ranking works. Top 8 will participate in the TMGLC final, with the top 4 from that final moving on to the head-to-heads on January 9th. 9th through 13th will have to face off against the Open Grand League players on December 18th, just before the Trackmania Grand League final, Challenger final as well, whilst the bottom 3, 14th, 15th, and 16th, will get automatically relegated to the Open Division, letting in their place the top 3 from the Open Division to slide through for the next season. So we kind of talked about the standings after Step 3, we talked briefly about Step 3, now let's get down to business with Step 4, and here is your map pack for tonight. On the edge, Pool Party, Vertigo, Poolside, and Launchpad. On the edge, the 4th and final appearance of this map by Popwet, the first of the contribution of Popwet in the map pack. Afterwards, we'll be moving on to Pool Party by Histo, then we'll move on to Vertigo, another map from Popwet, then the very first 6-lapper on Poolside, which could prove, well, to bring a bit more chaos and maybe having a bit more gaps. When we're discussing a little bit off camera about this, maybe more gaps being created over the course of the 6-lapper compared to what we saw in the 2-lapper. And your brand new map for this week is Launchpad by Ubisoft Nadeo, with a interesting identity, let's say that, with also a bit more of a mixed map compared to what we saw during the previous iterations of the map pack, especially considering ice. We do have a couple of corners which are somewhat awkward. We'll get to that when we get onto the map, but yeah, we do have a bit of a nice section now compared to just one ice patch on Eurosky 2, which is pretty much just a cameo appearance at this point. But yeah, pretty eclectic map pack overall, and yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the players get on as we're going to be moving onto the game server. Right now, everybody is present and currently in the process of warming up. As you can see, we are currently on Poolside. We'll be switching in a few moments to Launchpad, which we will be able to get to see from the perspective of one of the players, of course.
Yeah, and this is, of course, a bit of a sneak peek into the map that was last week's multiplier. And as we said, we are expecting some interesting battles. It could go either way. Of course, it is a pace map overall, but there's so many spots where you can have that little bit of a clip, and you're already so much more behind than the rest of the pack. So I'm definitely interested in the 6-lap, and of course, all of the maps so far. I feel like this, as we move on throughout the season, these maps are just getting more and more crazier in regards to either how close or how competitive and how much fighting it will go for those very mandatory points, and especially those multipliers in the end.
Yeah, and you can see Wolfsile at the moment trying to get a little bit of running practice here on the identity from Poolside. We saw some varying identities, some varying lines throughout those little U-turns, and some players tend to go for the outer line, being as close to the outside pole as possible, but avoiding to touch the water as much as they can, while others just stick to the regular way of diving into the pole and really close to the pole. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how players are going to be varying their trajectories depending on how they feel and how they want to actually catch up to the rest of players. But now we're going to be moving on to, well, the final warm-up phase on Launchpad, which will be the very first time it is seen here in action. And yeah, pretty drawn-out map. It has to say, we've seen somewhat more compact maps previously, except maybe from the remake maps that we had in the first 2 steps. But yeah, this one feels a bit more drawn out, a bit more sprawled out in terms of layout, and not super dense and with overlapping sections. And yeah, of course, the identity is going to be the main point of attention here.
Yeah, and as far as I've seen all of the practice that has been going on by several players, it is actually that a lot of people, I feel more comfortable actually with the identity itself, because it does give you a lot of speed and a lot of time to actually release and still take it with some safety. But the more of the fact is there's so many elements to this track. You just go into this, you can already see people crashing there. You go into the ice section, you get a bit of a bad angle, you're going to lose so much time here as well. So there's so many things that can go wrong on this map, and as you go further and further, there's just so many spots where you can have a bit of a clip there, you can have a bit of a bad line there, and it's just gonna accumulate so fast, and by the end of the lap you're just gonna be looking at it that where is everybody else, and I'm just here back in the grid. So it's gonna be a hectic map and definitely something to look forward.
Yeah, so we're following the perspective of mine right now through the identity, you can see, and then just before he gets onto the first CP, well, that unfortunately was kind of a flunk on that warm-up, but just before he actually crosses the first checkpoint ring, Mime actually goes for the full steer towards the right to actually shift direction in the air between CP1 and CP2. That's going to be something that's very important to get down, and also managing the speed with just a few, maybe a few releases or taps on the throttle to actually kind of gauge the distance of where you're actually going to go, where actually you're going to be landing up. It's going to be pretty tricky to get that identity down. As a casual, it is damn near impossible to do it. I say that as a casual myself. I've never been able to go through the identity cleanly one single time, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the pros get around.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been saying actually it's more of the combination of the identity and the start-finish, because if you do get a bit of a good line there as well, or if you don't get the soup, it's the gears afterwards that are going to be the biggest issue, because a lot of people want to avoid those gears so badly, because if you gear up at the wrong point, you're going to lose so much speed in that little black quarter pipe there, and you're going to lose so much time. So because of the plastic mix there as well, the identity combination with the start just is such a detriment, and a lot of people have been these players that I've heard as well have been saying that it's something that can be a make or break, because if you lose it there, then it's very annoying to recover, because you just lose so much speed and you're just already so much slower than the rest of the pack.
Yeah, indeed, it's going to be something to very much keep an eye out on. So we're currently, well, less than 2 minutes away from the theoretical death time, which is 6 p.m. CET. Of course, I was going to say CEST again, but yeah, we're back on the standard winter time, or should I say rather. But yeah, we're about to get started sooner rather than later here on the step. Everybody's present on the server. My mouth is doing a few mind games of its own yet again. But yeah, some of you in the chat might have noticed there was a few updates to the UI. OTAC now has his third A back, so yeah, there you go. Full reformed OTAC now in there. We also have the clan attack from Exotica being changed with RBG Esports. Same for Fegley, I think it was as well, with Team 300 now being prominently displayed as his clan tag. A few updates, of course, due to the driver and team changes that happened over the course of the first half of the season, and yeah, you can bet that there might be a few more updates in case there is any more stuff happening on that space, such as the move from the Exotica to RBG Esports.
Well, yeah, it is good to see that at least that as far as we've seen that the RGB Esports is proud and presented at least on the main page as well. So once we get to the other part, it will be fixed in the future schematics and points as well. It's just that unfortunately for this step we still had that bit of a, but it was a bit of fun on Twitter as well. I do believe it was people had fun with it as well, and it was actually a good way to enjoy a bit of a mishap, but in a good way.
Yeah. By the way, somebody keep count of how many times we actually say RGB instead of RBG, because I bet it's going to happen a lot of time. We already kind of established that, but yeah, if someone wants to actually do a bit of a counter on their own, that's going to be a pretty fun. That's going to be pretty fun to actually follow along. But yeah, we are soon getting started. Yeah, we are 45 seconds, well, not 45 seconds, we're 10 seconds away from the start of the step. Ladies and gentlemen, the challengers are about to go racing here tonight, as we're going to be moving on to map number 1, with this first map of the day going to be none other than On the Edge by Pupwet, the final appearance of this map, which made its introduction on step number 1, and there's one keyword to describe this identity here: precision.
Yeah, and this map on itself is one of the good parts. It's on the edge, especially a lot of these lines where you can get a lot of speed, a lot of momentum going going in very tight as well, and that final identity. That one mistake can cost you the entire race, and that's the worst part. And it's just so hard to see everything, and especially when we go into the actual rounds, we're gonna see a lot of this happening in the identity. People are going to clip, people are not gonna make it clean, and at the end of the day, the one that just keeps it clean, solid, is the one who takes it as well.
Yeah, so you can see everybody working around. If you notice a few dump frames, that's all fine. We have a local recording currently being done, and it should be okay for upload later on. But yeah, in the meantime, we're back on the race with the warm-up, of course, around being driven. You can see Otak and Razi trying to get their fingers back in the groove of playing on the Edge by Popway for the final time here this season. And we're also following Nixaltica along right here towards the uphill U-turn. It's going to be very important to keep the gear there because it can save you a couple tenths of a second, roughly. Then on the downwards left hand, on the downwards double right-hander, then the identity coming up right here. And you're going to see people are not going to be FSing as well. We've seen that plenty of times before. But yeah, a tiny bit of a tap drift to set yourself up for the first corner, then second and third should be passing nice and easy. FSing that is almost impossible, and when you do it, you tend to actually get a lot of speed, but it's definitely not worth the trouble. It's super easy to actually clip either on the inside hole with the water or on the outside with the bonk into the pole and completely sap your momentum. But anyways, we're getting started right here, right now on race number 1 on the Edge by Popway Play for the final time here in the season, as we're starting step number 4 with a bang and following the perspective of our previous winner, Otak.
Yeah, and as we see, already no mistakes on the pole, that's good. Everybody has a bit of a different line on their drifts, as well as I do believe that everybody's in a close pack, no early mistakes. Everybody's being in a very close proximity. And it's going very clean at the moment. I'm really good to see that as well. And no mistakes in the turnaround as well. Everybody's keeping it clean. I do believe somebody had a bit of a touch. Snow is falling back on the grid a bit already, but everybody else is in a very tight pack and keeping it cool, as Mime is in the last positions. But again, small mistakes happening already. Revo have a bit in a touch as well. Fegli falling a bit behind, but so far no major mistakes, as Fegli is at the back of the pack as well. And we get to see we are getting closer to that identity. Who will make it close? No mistakes before it. Now it comes down to this: who will make or break it? It needs to be clean, needs to be solid, no major mistakes. This is the first lap, you want to have it nice. And we see Esmi4 and Exotic already making a touch. Link falling behind, Evon having a bit of a touch. 4 players already falling behind on the first lap already, and we just have to make sure that everybody just needs to keep it clean. Otherwise, we're gonna have many mistakes in the next few laps.
Yeah, so at the end of the first lap, it was Cap who actually held the lead, but he has had a bit of a slow start of the second lap, and so he will be falling down to P7 with Otak and Mosal having taken the lead. And you can see the top 5 group right now, with Solja, Hydra, and Razi completing that top 5 group. We see Cap currently hanging on to Dolphalt sitting in P6, battle for P6 again. Now the overtake has been made by Cap for P6, but he's not going to be out of the woods yet. He's still got Dolphalt very much right in his exhaust. And in the meantime, a pretty nice top 3-way fight, or even 4-way fight for the lead between Mosal, Otak, Hydra, and Razi, which we're going to be following along here through this double right-hander with a freewheel. Going really low here, Otak, a bit lower than Razi did, tearing a bit more speed onto the corner. Now moving on to the identity here. From the perspective of the leaders, will there be any bonks? Seems first one come through clean, second through clean, and Hydra with the best amount of speed. Maybe a bit of a slowdown there from Mosal, getting overtaken at the line for P2 by Otak, but Hydra taking the lead, and with the fastest lap as well, a 110.141. Meanwhile, Fegli seemed further down the field. Revo moving back up to P13, Fegli making a mistake down to last place. And yeah, some of the players that made that early mistake on the identity having a bit of a pain to actually come back up through the rankings, aside from Evon, who's currently right on the bubble of the top 8, battling with his fellow compatriot Mime for P8.
Yeah, and we did see Cap was in the top 8 contention as well, but he had a mistake in the identity. He finds himself in 10th position, but currently at least the top 8 is keeping itself relatively close. But we see that top 4, they are really going at each other at the moment. They have not made a single mistake, with Hydra in the front as well, and that top 4 is keeping it very solid indeed, and everybody's just trying to catch up and trying to keep pace, but currently they're just keeping it clean. No mistakes, only those small little things that give you that extra tenth here and there. But we go into the third iteration of the identity. Can they keep it still clean? They've been so far. No mistakes on the first go-around. Second is clean. Oh, there was a bit. Otak, bit of a touch. Vosile as well. That allows Dolfald and the rest to just glance back out in front of them. And they have to take the safe route. But still, even with those mistakes, just because the gaps are so big, they still maintain their top 8 spot. But I'm sure that's the least they want. They want to be in that top 4, fighting for that win. But if anything, it just shows that even after 3 laps of this, even you make a mistake on the identity, you can still keep that top 8.
Yeah, and in the meantime, as you were actually talking through the previous lap or so, we saw plenty of mistakes, such as mine, for instance, who was battling for the top 8 alongside Evon, and he made a mistake right at that section right here. On lap number 3, he actually hit the wall and allowed Evon to go through. We had a few other mistakes as well, such as Solja, who's now back into a fight for P8 even, and you can see the fight is definitely intensifying and promoting up to a fight for P6. You've got Solja, you've got Evon, you've got mine, you've got Cap, you've got Energize in there as well. And in the meantime, towards the as far as the top 3 is concerned, well, Hydra's got a pretty good buffer of around a half a tenth to almost a second compared to Razi. Dolfald moving up to P3, Vosile P4, and Otak in P5, following the perspective of Otak. And we see 2 mistakes from Vosile and Dolfald from P5 to P3. They go, and Hydra having slow speed as well. Soldier clipping as well, good catch. But yeah, Hydra also having a really slow exit from the identity, and that allows Razi to move up into the lead, whilst Mime takes the fastest lap of the race with a 110.127.
Yeah, and we get to see this all the time. We can see Mime had a really early mistake, was at the bottom of the barrel, but now he's keeping it consistent. He's already in 4th place, and that battle for that 8th spot, the battle for those big boy points is now very getting intense. We're on lap 5, and it's only gonna get worse and worse for the players as they're trying to keep it cool. They're trying to keep that position. They want to get those extra points because finishing 9th is such a detriment as well. And Exotica, he just wants to see those players in front. Just one of them do just a hint of a bit of a clip. He would be so happy about it because he really wants to get those extra points, because the difference between 8th and 9th is actually very considerable as we are going into the identity as well. Razi so far been the most consistent out of all of them, but does it keep on going? Everybody seems to be going clean. Top 8 is perfectly fine, and apart from Solja, he has that clip, and Exotica, exactly what he was looking for. He's going for it, and he's now top 8.
Well, not
Solja
quite.
getting back.
Not quite. Solja not losing too much speed over the final part of the lap, despite that clip that you mentioned. I didn't really catch it on camera because I was actually busy watching Otak, who had a pretty much a supreme identity, clawing back up to Razi and moving up to P2 thanks to a mistake from Hydra, who lost speed at the end. And Hydra moved down to P4 with Mime, coming back up after a pretty big mistake on lap 2 or lap 3, and he's now back up to 3rd place, which is worth 20 points, and that's a pretty significant boon for his challenge. Meanwhile, Otak, 22 points, but he's also got the fastest lap as well in the previous lap, a 110.110. Meanwhile, Razi's got a buffer of around a second to work with. He should be looking pretty fine out here, unless there is, of course, a bonk at the identity. That is, of course, not far away from happening at any time here. On the edge. We're coming up to the identity now. Short score to the throttle before moving on to the engine cut block. Now onto the sequence of corners. First corner done, second corner done as well. Razi getting caught up, but it's not going to be enough for Otak to make any impact. And Razi takes the win with a 7:04.870 running time. Otak takes 2nd plus fastest lap. Mime 3rd, Hydra 4th, Cap 5th, Energize 6th, Evon 7th, and Solja in P8. Exotica will not be able to make it just around 6/10ths down compared to Solja, and will finish in P9.
Yeah, and we saw that this is a perfect example of those. You make that early mistake, forget about it. There's still the entire 5 more laps to go, and Mime perfectly showcases. Horrible first lap, but he scrolls up, and again, 3rd place, 20 points. He's probably very happy with that. Very good first map performance, and everybody who just kept it clean. And Razi, props to him, very good performance on this map. He won it, I do believe he won it last step as well, so I'm sure he will be very saddened to see that map go.
Yeah, as we're moving on to map number 2, which is none other than Pool Party by Histo, the very first multiplier map here from the original season, from the original map pack of the season. And yeah, 2 slaloms around poles, and you can see for the first one you got a few visual cues with the rotating blocks that you can actually see being dotted around the map, and the second one going really fast around these poles. You can somewhat FS it again, but it's very much a gamble. It could either be a huge payoff or it can result in a pretty catastrophic crash that will send you back down the order pretty heavily here.
Yeah, and it's something that we definitely have to keep in mind. We have seen so many times where you come to that last identity part, everybody is just so focused, so going well, and then you just hit that one pole, and that's just it. And every part of this map is just avoid those poles. They are not your friends. Everybody in chat already loading up their poles. This is gonna be something, people have been driving this map so many times, but still, no matter how many times you drive, just that one input is just a bit wrong and you're already fully crashed and you're just gonna lose all of your momentum going into the map.
Yeah, this is going to be a very critical identity here, and yeah, quick sorry for the way too dank stream switches. I was kind of lost on my little stream deck here, but yeah, we're back up and running, of course, so everything is fine. You can see the rankings on the left-hand side of the screen. Razi, your current leader after that win on race 1. Otak, P2 with the fastest lap, earned him 24 points, and yeah, some of the players who want to actually get some big points right from the get-go here on map number 1 are going to try to catch back up. I'm talking, of course, about Wosile, Snow, and Link. Those 3 Frenchmen, as well as Dofalt, currently sitting with 4 points. That's really big discrepancy in the points, doing some big damage. We're moving on to race number 2, and we're going to follow the perspective from Solja here for the first couple of corners.
Yeah, so first jumps, hopefully nobody... Oh, and as soon as we say that as well, Solja making the most crucially not the thing you want to do on your first lap, and he's already so much behind, and I think that's sort of a curtain for his race on this map, but I'm sure he will try to do anything he can to climb back up again, but that's a very rough mistake to make, and that's gonna just throw you off the entire course as we see the rest of the pack. Revo making a slight mistake, but well, other than that, all of the crew is going well. Fegli falling a bit behind as we have a good view of the field from Fegli's perspective. Everybody's keeping it clean so far, but this is the section where it is very simple, and no major mistakes should come out of this if you keep it just simple. But we are getting very close to those sections where those poles are gonna come in, and we're edging ever so close. And as far as we've seen from previous steps, most people do get it right. It's just such a muscle memory at this point, but you know, you just need that wrong angle and you get it wrong as we move into it. Let's see that we are in the middle of the back with Wosile. Everybody's going through, no mistake. Miquatra having a bit of a touch. That means that Fegli moves as well. And I do believe Wosile also making a mistake.
Yep, he indeed
so
respawned.
Everybody getting through, and yeah, it was 14, now it's 12.
Yeah, unfortunately for Wosile, he did not manage to make it through unscathed through the final slalom, so he is now down in P14, and we had a mistake from Fegli.
With that dodge.
Yeah, unfortunately clipping on the inside and getting stopped right there and then at the hole that you see right here, right next to the poles. So yeah, Fegli's day is pretty much over right now. In the meantime, towards the front, Cap, Otak, Evon, and Link, 1, 2, 3, 4 with Razi.
Snow doing a mistake as well in the pole section as well, so he's also falling behind. So it's only a pack of 10 now that we have remaining. Yeah,
really sorry for if I was talking over you there. Whilst you were reporting on that particular incident from Snow. Yeah, unfortunately his day is going to be over. Meanwhile, we've got the battle for P9 between Energize and also Dopefalt, who are a little bit of a ways away compared to the top 8 group. Currently, at the tail end of it, we find Nick Saltica battling for a couple more positions versus Link, as well as versus Hydra. Meanwhile, towards the front, it's Otak and Cap, Evon in P3 going through the second slalom. Let's see if there's any big mistakes. So Razi slowing down dramatically, allowing Hydra to go through. Same for Nixaltica. Nixaltica up into P6, Hydra P5. Otak taking the lead again on lap number 2 with the 1:16.890, the new reference for fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, and so far at least this pack of 10 is keeping it cool. I do see a bit of a touch. I feel like Razi's almost had a clip there, but he managed to recover relatively well. So he's behind the pack, but lost a bit more even after the start mistake. So he's keeping up with this, but we are seeing a pretty good pack. This pack is keeping it together even after a few laps. So they're keeping it strong. This pure muscle memory between the poles is really working for them, and Otak is is not far in front, so everybody's just keeping the pace with him, keeping up close, keeping the pressure on, making sure that he doesn't get comfortable. And I'm sure he's also glancing at sometimes at those gaps as well and seeing, okay, I don't have any pace at all. I still need to push, because otherwise Evan, Mime, Cap, Hydra, all of them are just eyeing that first place position and making sure that it's all theirs. And as far as I can see, yeah, it's still relatively close between the 10 pack. There are, of course, long gaps in between, but let's see, do we see any mistakes so far? Everybody's going relatively clean, and the top
Cap.
10.
Cap, unfortunately,
Cap
making a big mistake.
Major mistake, and he has to take the entire safe route so awkwardly, and that's a really bad mistake, as that will be the end of his. That's a very hard thing to recover, and with so few laps left, I think that's the story for him. But just to keep an eye on Revo, he's been just slowly in the back. He's a fair bit away, but every time he just gets that one position, and he's getting closer and closer to that 8th spot.
Yeah, he's playing a bit of the attrition race game, like just keeping himself out of trouble, even though he had a bit of a sluggish start. Currently sitting in P10, which would be only worth 4 points at this stage, remember. But yeah, just a couple more mistakes, maybe from Energize and maybe from Link, who are up ahead, and he's back up into the top 8. In the meantime, towards the front, Otak and Evon have broken clear away from Mime. Look at this, Mime has got around a 6 and a half tenth deficit compared to the top 2 battle between Evon and Otak. And yeah, Evon currently keeping the pressure on the Lily Sport driver. Currently, Otak doing pretty well for himself, but the identity can be there to snatch that victory away from his hands at any moment here. But so far so good, they're making it through clean, and a new fastest lap for Otak with a 1:16.653.
Yeah, and as I said, Rossi making a mistake, Revo getting another spot, and there's 2 more laps remaining. The strategy he's just keeping it clean. Of course, Vosile is now looking at it as well and being like, okay, this seems to be what you're doing. I can do a lot faster than you, so he's right behind the neck of Revo, and the top 8 keeping it clean. Of course, the little things do add up in the end, but they're keeping their top 8 spot, and that is very important, as you mentioned as well. Otak, Evan in their own little battle as well, with Mime and Hydra shadowing them, waiting for that little thing to just grab that 2nd position, or even 1st, who knows, while everybody else is now gotten into their own groove. They're writing it down. Everybody has their mojo down, and they are now just in cruise control. This is now full robust. Everybody's now full focus. This should be no mistakes, and everybody's just getting it on. And we get to see the identity soon as well. And so far, at least, the top 8 pretty clean. Oh, as Link clips, and this is the perfect opportunity for Revo. He's still a fair bit behind, but still. He's now right up the neck of Link as well, and everybody gets the identity right as well. So Link, at the moment, having a bit of a struggle, and Revo now right on his tail to grab that 8th spot.
Yeah, he's right on the cusp of being able to make it. He's currently reeling in Link, as you can actually see. He's managing to get the gap down to around 0.3 of a second, and it's still very much game on for that final big point-paying position here. And Revo is going to try to make the most of it, as I'm assuming he will be able to do that. Then, of course, we're going to be moving back up towards the front, and you can see the gaps are somewhat straightened again. Evon getting left behind by Otak, who's pulled a bit of a buffer of around 0.4 of a second compared to Evon, and then Mime a further half a second away. Then we see Hydra and Dolphalt having a bit of a gap as well, and the Exotica Energized Link. Revo, in the meantime, it's still looking pretty close. Well, even though Link has taken a little bit of pace back again from Revo, he's now widened the gap to around 0.7 of a second. We're, of course, going to be keeping tabs on Revo as he seeks to get closer and closer to Link, but I think we should actually get back up towards the leading fight between Otak and Evon. Evon around 0.3 compared to Otak. The gaps are somewhat stabilized. Just the final identity to go, the final slalom, and it seems as though Otak will be able to make it through unscathed, and yes, he wins ahead of Evon. Mime 3rd, Hydra for Dolphalt, Exotica Energized, and Link. Yes, and Link will be able to make it through. So close, but no cigar for Revo, who just finishes half a second shy of top 8, just like the Exotica back in race number 1. And Otak going for the full house as well, with the win and the fastest lap of the race. So 1:16.460, netting him 27 points at the end of this race.
Yeah, and we are beginning to see something very good as well. At the moment is performing well. Otak, all of the big names are performing well as we see the leaderboard as well. And something that is very good to see, Evon bouncing back from his really bad step from last year. He's already in the contention for the top. So we're really getting to see the people who had a really rough step up as well. But currently I'm seeing at the moment at least the likes of Vosal and Soldier still struggling a bit, but good to see at least that Evon, for example, bouncing back from that bad step and already performing to the level that he had previously.
Yeah, now we're moving on to map number 3, which is of course Vertigo, the second Popwet map to make its appearance in the Grand League regular season map pack. And yeah, all that there is to say is the final sector. Pipes, first pipes without any help from Reactor Boost, and the final one, of course, with Reactor Boost. You gotta keep your car, of course, pointing down towards the ground, otherwise you're going to be flying off the pipe, as you'll be able to see here. The way to properly do it, there you go. Keep it on the inside, keep it nice and tidy, make sure to keep the car pointing the right direction, and then off of the pipe and onto the road towards the finish line to start another lap. And this time, yeah it's going to be pretty interesting.
And we also saw the fact, like when we saw it last time in the pool as well, that 6-lapper when it was here. First lap, absolute chaos. I feel like almost half of the field just completely died on the first pipe. So we get to see if there has been any improvements. Warm-up at least looks more promising than the last step did, but if we're anything to go by, these pipes are gonna be a killer. And all eyes on Otak. Last time he just dominated this map without any issues, and hopefully Vosal, who was also good on here, he needs to bounce back, as two of the players who are being constantly getting points, Soldier and Vosal, currently finding themselves in the lower half of the leaderboard, so they definitely need to do some catching up.
Yeah, especially Vosal, currently sitting on a single-digit score with just 7 points. Soldier, with just 16 points, is not really faring too well either on the start of the step, so this is going to be the point where they are going to be looking for some big placings. They're going to be looking to get at least in the top 5 to get those big points. Well, top 8, of course, is the bare minimum to get 15 points compared to the 5 of 9th place. But, of course, getting on the top 5 and even on the podium is going to be paying out big dividends, because this is where the big points lie, of course. We're starting race number 3 right now, and we're going to be following the perspective of, well, it's, as we were talking about, Vosal. And he seems as though, well, a little bit wide there, but not managing to keep it on the road. And so far he's towards the leading group, and well, we have a bit of a bigger mistake. Yeah, Arazi already down 1.6 seconds compared to the top 8, and now at the top tail end of the leading group we have Link.
Yeah, and we get to see as we edge ever so closely to the pipes now. Moment of truth. Has it changed from the last step? People, do they fly out? Everybody, first one clean, second one. Oh, Link. And Link making a mistake, and Cap as well. Both of them respawning. Miquatro and Vosal taking a lot safer, and they have so little speed. So the rest of the pack is just going to get away from them now as we take a look at the other half of it. Now going on to the other scary part of the pipes. Looking here, everybody's so far staying on the pipes. No major mistakes as far as I can see.
Oh, Nixotica didn't stick the landing, unfortunately, as soon as I switched back to him.
So, yeah, and there were some that had a bit of a rough landing as well. I do believe that some had a bit of a slower landing than others, but at least as far as we can see, everybody, most of the pack did come through, so a much bigger improvement compared to last week as well. So that's good to see, but people still, those pipes, they are a killer, and already almost half the pack is just out because those pipes are just taking them out one by one.
Yeah, 1.5 seconds between 1st and 10th, and then there's a pretty big gap between 10th and 11th at 1.6 seconds between these two.
Hydra needing to respawn as well, so that's another one out, and that's allowing everybody in the back just to come forward. And yeah, Miquatro had a really bad mistake, but now he's already in the top 8, and Vosal as well, but everybody just one by one. You just need to keep it clean, but of course it's easier said than done because you want to save it, but at the same time, if you save, you're just gonna fall behind anyway.
Yeah, Otak in the meantime, sorry to kind of like get a bit of a move on, but yeah, Otak in P1 currently leading the race. Nixotica though taking the fastest lap away from him with 102.724. Otak having a gap of 6 tenths of a second. Wosile having made a big mistake, apparently. Yeah, he is indeed completely out of the fight for the top 8 positions, currently battling with Solja for P11. In the meantime, we see a battle potentially brewing between the two Polish drivers, Mime and Evon, second and third. They're both trying to reel in Otak, and they're pretty fairly distance apart. 4/10 between first and second, 4/10 between second and third. No mistakes from the top 3. Revo forced to respawn. He was in the battle for the top 5. He's going to be falling behind Hydra and down to P10, promoting Razi up into the points, into the 15 points paying top 8. miQuattro currently sitting in P7, not faring too bad after that blunder at the start. The two BS Plus competition drivers running in tandem. Snow and Dofalt in the P4 and P5 at the moment. Energized, did not stick the landing. He's falling down. He's going to be forced to respawn. In the meantime,
also falling off the pipe as well. So major mistakes in the top 8 as well. So it's allowing everybody to now come up again. Razi 6th again, having a bit of a mistake. Hydra Wosile back in the top 8. Simple as that. The gaps might be big, but the mistakes are even more costly, and it's just showing all the time. And it's just going to be a swung between everybody. But the only solid part we see is the top 3. Otak, Mime, Evon, solid rocks. No mistakes so far.
Okay. I was going to say don't speak too soon, but yeah, I was waiting to see how they fare through the pipes. But yeah, they managed to make it through unscathed through the first set of pipes at the very least. Mime having dropped a little bit of time compared to Otak, maybe a bit too much penalty dirt at the exit from there, and thus will be allowing Otak to get a gap of almost 0.8 of a second compared to Mime. And we had a big mistake from Snow, who was battling in the top positions. He's down in P14, he's tumbling down the order, second to last now. Otak still continuing to lead convincingly ahead of Mime and Evon. But yeah, plenty of big mistakes. miQuattro, who was fighting in the top 6, yeah, of course you saw that last during the previous laps, but he fell down the order. Revo falling down the order again, and Solja is now sitting on that top 8. He's got a 1.5 second gap compared to Link, and that's nothing when you see that how much a mistake can actually cost on this map. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see the battle for top 8. As you can see, Link trying to reel Solja in, and yeah, one single misplacing, one single input completely missed, and you're going to be a goner.
Yeah, and we get to see that everybody's having a bit of that 1 second gap. You have a bit more closeness between Hydra and Wosile at the moment, but everybody's in that half a second gap at the moment. As we see Otak making a bit of a mistake, falling a bit behind with Mime and Evon taking over as well. And big mistakes as well. Solja needing to respawn. Hydra is now 9th as well. Nixotica now in the top 8 again. And we get to see like all of these people. You might be out of the top 8, but you need to keep pushing because that top 8 is very volatile at the moment. And those places are up for grabs even as we go into the final lap of the race. And Mime and Evon keeping it very solid up front with Otak with that small and a big respawn by Otak. He goes too wide. And he needs to respawn. It doesn't cost him too much, but I do believe that costs him the top position unless Mime and Evon do a big mistake.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was still keeping touching. Well, I say touching distance, but he was not that far. He was not that close, but not too far away from both Mime and Evon either. So yeah, he would have been in contention for the lead. But yeah, and that's going to take something pretty big in terms of mistakes from Mime and Evon so far to enable Dofalt and Otak to go back up into the fight for the lead. Razi dropping down to P6, and Wosile moving up into P5 at his expense. Meanwhile, towards the identity we go. The react to boost part is coming up right now. Mime keeping it nice and clean through here, dropping a little bit of speed there. Doesn't stick the landing, and that's going to be Evon to take the map. And the win for Evon after that rough landing there from Mime. Evon gets the 25 points, Mime second, Otak third, Dofalt fourth, Wosile, Razi, Nixotica, and Link complete the top 8.
Yeah, and we get to see Hydra and Energize 9th and 10th, Solja coming in 11th. miQuattro did make a mistake, so Snow gets 12th and Revo 13th, Cap 14th, miQuattro 15th, and finishing up with Vegli. And another strong step, that little bad landing from Mime, and it gives Evon exactly what he needs. Snow does get the fastest lap points, which is a bit of a consolation for his placement, but we get to see Otak comfortably in the lead with Evon and Mime in close battle, while the rest of the pack try to keep up with the top 3.
All right, 3 races down, 1 more 6-lapper to go before the final map. And of course, we're moving on to map number 4, which is going to be none other than Poolside by Kisla, the very first 6-lapper race to be held on this map. And yeah, the introduction of water and plastic physics on step 3, which produced some pretty interesting rounds in the 2-lappers. Now the big question is, how will that translate over to the 6-lappers? As we discussed a little bit before on camera, on and off camera, I'm predicting that it's going to be maybe a bit more chaos and bigger gaps, as from kind of like the likes of Vertigo, where a single mistake on the identity could be very punishing. But you've actually pointed this out. It's more of a pace-heavy map compared to the previous ones, so maybe that those gaps are still going to be somewhat closer than what we would expect them to be.
Yeah, and we get to see what people have learned from the last step as well. So basically, because of the fact that OTAC and well, in this case, a lot of players had different strats as well, as we have especially that water sections as well. Like the first water in TMGL and Challenger, we saw people doing bounces. They're doing slides, they were doing no slide strats as well, so there's plenty of options to go for, and we get to see what people learned from the previous step, and if they are going to do the very, very risky mime line, which is to do the drift, or Neo in this case, before in the identity and get more speed. But I feel like a lot of people see it as a very risky strat, because a lot of cases it does not work. It's not just worth it. As we get to look at Razi's perspective, everybody's going in there very calm, very smooth, nothing really complicated, but you really want that exit speed out of that final pool to set yourself up for the next lap.
Yeah, indeed. Score recap you can see on the left-hand side. OTAC leading the step with 71 points scored, 63 for Evon, 62 for Mime, 45 for Razi, 43 for Hydra, 41 for Dolfall, 38 for Nixotica, 37 for Energize. Complete your top 8. We're on to the 4th and final 6-lapper of this step before the multiplier map, and we're going to be following along with, let's say, we're going to be moving along with Dolfall for now.
Yeah, and okay, so first no pole touches as far as I can see. Apart from Hydra making an early mistake, so he's already fallen behind, and Revo clipping, already making a mistake as well. So we already have 2 victims off the track, while the rest of the pack is going in front. Another mistake I do believe I saw.
Yep,
didn't
Mime.
quite catch who that was.
It was
Mime actually making a... Yeah, so we're already seeing early mistakes, but you gotta push this map because you really don't want to safe it. There's another one I think had a really bad landing as well. And yeah, so basically we get to see more up front as well, as everybody's making that small little mistake here and there. Another touch, Snow making a mistake as well. And basically we get to see everybody going for the same line as well. And yeah, let's take a look here. Oh, Snow doing a bit of a wall bang there. Don't hopefully didn't catch that as well. Everybody going to the identity. Ooh, a few going for the drift. Everyone went for it, but it's not as fast as people might think. And as we move, everyone having a bit of a crash, and that's a pretty big one as well. And we get to see how the top move on to the next lap.
Yeah, let's see. So Wolsal taking the lead after lap number 1 has elapsed. OTAC taking the fastest lap of the race of 1:11.095 for the player from Lille Esport at the moment. P3 for OTAC, who is getting reeled in. Well, he had a bit of a bad landing on the dirt section here, so he'll be dropping down to P9. Wolsal, Cap, and Energize. The positions are swapping rapidly here. Wolsal battling with Cap from Team Oplon. Energize from B-Genius is right there with a bit more speed at the exit of the dirt into the grass banking, so he moves up to P2 and maybe even more speed compared to Cap, and so he will be trying to challenge for the lead, maybe not quite. Solja and Dolfall, the 2 Belgians in P5 and P6, Dolfall being harassed by Razi and Miquatro. Who was that? Who the hell was that?
Having a big mistake up front, and he's going down the drain now on this map, so major mistake from first to last in an instance, and that's what happens. That mistake is so costly, and the respawn is even more devastating, and he's already completely last from first to last in a blink of an eye. Nothing else, and I see everybody else at least getting the identity very confidently. So apart from that Cap's big mistake, the top 8 remain relatively the same.
Yeah, Wolsal, Dolfall, Solja, Energize, Link, OTAC, Miquatro, Razi, your top 8. Currently a battle between Miquatro and Razi for P7. Miquatro having a few teleports on my side, but thankfully everything should be fine. Not that landing though. and that's going to be allowing everyone to swoop through. Mime back up into the top 8 position again, managing to salvage a few, potentially managing to salvage a few points from this. Now attacking Razi for P7, and Razi with that bad landing allows Mime through into 7th position. Now you can see the top 6 is just a bit further up ahead of the road for Mime. 6/10 in fact between himself and Otak, currently sitting in P6. Hydra currently trying to reel Razi in, trying to catch up to Razi and Mime, and we had a mistake, it seems like, from Snow. No, he went just for a bit of a different strat, and yeah, that seems to have paid off somewhat, moving back up to P9 at the expense of Hydra, moving back onto the identity. Wosal managing to keep it somewhat clean. Soldier second as well. Oh, Wosal, a little bit of a wide exit, and Soldier goes too wide and full stop picks into the bollards, and that's going to be the end of the day for Soldier here on that final race. Wosal will be in the lead, but not for long, maybe, as Dolfald is right there snapping at his heels. He's trying to catch him up and trying to force him to make a mistake. He's piling all the pressure. Energized right there in P3, Otak P4, Lincoln P5. It's still very much a close contest, and Mime could be also joining the queue.
Yeah, and we get to see, like, there's still a major pack that is going on. Of course, the bottom half of the top 8 is falling a bit behind, but we still have that. We have still 6 drivers at the top fighting for that top position, as I do believe, oh, okay, Energize did fall back a bit. He had a bit of a mistake. So, and we get to see a top 5 now as well. So there's definitely that pace element that I mentioned. They're gonna be close. If you have that consistency down, people are gonna be very tightly packed as well. Everybody having a bit of a different line as well. And we get to see the pack going into the identity for the 4th time now. So far, there's been a one mistake every time, but oh, and as I speak it, Energize is sliding out and losing all of his momentum. And I do believe he's now out of the top 8 as Hydra, Nixotica is right behind him. So Energize keeps his top 8, but that's a very costly slide, and he's on the cusp again. Nixotica again trying to hunt those big points, and he's trying to get them from Energize.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we still have a very much a raging battle for the lead between Mime, Otak, and Wosal on the final lap. Otak having a bit more airtime, going for the outer line, a bit more closer to the wall for Otak compared to Wosal, trying to carry a bit more speed, and you can see from Dolfald that they're currently pulling away from him. He's going to take something special or some big mistakes from the top 3 to actually be able to catch up. And as I say that, Otak has a slow grass turn, and he moves up to 3rd place. Dolfald now, Mime has a gap of around 0.2 of a second compared to Wosal, as we head towards the final sector of the map. Second jump into the pool, little dip in there. Slide for Dolfald, it is smooth steering for Mime and Wosal, which pays off much better for the both of them. Now the identity comes up. Let's see the perspective of Wosal. Mime trying to dip pretty light here, managing to get a bit better drift and carry more speed through. Second dip, 3rd dip, managing to go through. Mime will take the win and the fastest lap so far. Oh,
we got one more lap.
One lap.
Ahead of yourself a bit.
I thought we were on lap 6, and it must be my eyes deceiving me. But yeah, I'm just gonna let you go through the final lap then for the rest of people. Yeah, it was just my smooth brain not being able to keep up.
Yeah, and we see Mime now hedging himself in front. He's having a comfortable lead at the moment, as the rest of the pack is also getting a bit more divided. Everybody's, as I see Dolfald making a major mistake, and he's falling so far behind, and it allows finally Nixotica to get into that top 8 as well. But Mi4, he's now in the position of Nixotica. He's not too far behind as the pack keeping relative distance at the moment, and Mime in a comfortable position still. So it all comes down to the final end, as everybody's getting into that comfort zone, having those big gaps at the moment. Then you really need to now just hope that somebody makes a mistake, because otherwise this is going to be the top 8, or unless you make a very crucial mistake in the end. But we do see Nixotica and Energies fighting for that 8 spot, and Mi4 is just too far behind with Snow as well. Nobody making any major mistake. Nixotica having a bit of a bad line, but that does not matter.
Mime!
Top 8.
Completely missed it on cameras. Really sorry about this. We were talking about that battle for top 8, and Mime completely flunked at the final U-turn, giving Wosal the victory on the silver plate, and even worse, drops out to 10th. Scoring 6 points with the fastest lap. My God.
That was something I completely missed. It felt like it was a top 8. I guess he made a mistake in the final turn, because everything looks completely fine. And then just in the blink of an eye, we didn't catch that, unfortunately. But Mime, I do believe it's probably his 1st or 2nd time out of the top 8 that he's finished. So he's probably battling his head. But Otak, 91 points. That is extremely high. I do believe that's the highest amount we've ever seen in the league. 91 out of a possible, well, if you count the fast lap, 108, but let's be real, 91 out of 100, it's, in my opinion, a very good result. If he gets a 5x now, oh boy.
Boy, yeah, that would be the big time and big celebrations if he manages to do that. Now, moving on to our final map, Launchpad by Ubisoft Nadeo. As we said, a bit more mixed compared to what we saw in the previous one, with a few sequence of ice corners compared to a single patch of ice on some of the previous maps that we had, and of course a very interesting identity, to say the least, of course, with a flight through 2 ring CPs where you actually have to also manage your speed and also your time of transitioning from going one direction to another, as you can see right here in the preview, and then fly through the other glider ring before going onto the finish line.
Yeah, and this is now where all of the elements come together. This is a map where you just, of course we keep saying it, but I feel like in this map those little things are gonna cost you even more. This ice slide, for example, that I'm having a look at Otak's perspective, have a bit of a bad angle. You lose almost a second already because of that, because you have to correct, you have to take into consideration what your speed is now, make sure you don't gear down as well. So it's just so many things you have to keep an eye on in this, and as I mentioned when we were talking off camera as well, there's so many spots you can clip, touch, and it can just ruin all of your flow, and because you're already built in with your muscle memory. Take it off, you're gonna have to adapt, and this ending is just, this is where we get to see the men separated from the boys. Who's gonna go for the maximum effort? Because that maximum effort can be the difference between you being in front by a second or you being behind by just completely out of this altogether.
So, we're starting off the final map, the first of 4 level 2 rounds set to start. 4 level 2 multipliers up for grabs, which will allow anyone getting it to double their score. So we're already underway. It seems as though we had someone being stuck in at the start. I did not manage to catch who that was, but yeah, it was indeed miQuattro, who may have a bit of a late start there, so he is DNFing. And after the start, it seems as though Solja has managed to take the lead ahead of Mime and Fegli, but it's still very much pretty packed. As we see, the first mistake from Razi, unfortunately, dropping down to P15. He's going to be out of contention.
Yeah, and we get to this ice section, and we get to now see what the difference is. Everybody's getting it pretty well, actually. Not too bad. Snow, he knew, he saw, he was going to go over the snow. Immediately went out of that DNF, and he's out. But we get to see the difference. Everybody was packed on the ice. After that, the gaps are now almost significantly already a second wide spread, so you can already see what that ice can do. Everybody was in a tight pack. After the ice, it's already a second between first and 12th position as we go into the identity. Our first glance of the identity, who will go? Fegli hitting the CP. Mime, I think as well, or was it Mime? No, it wasn't. It was someone else. Link having a mistake as well. Many of them, but surprisingly,
Razi,
a lot of people surviving. Yeah, there's a lot of people who survived, but so many people lost so much time that you probably gotta look at the top 7 now, or even top 6 who are fighting for that 2x right now.
Yeah, so far, so for Solja, Mime and Otak, it's very much a 3-way fight for the lead. Now, Mime, if he has a few, the last time that he actually took the ×2 multiplier, well, last week, it was because of internet issues. I wonder if he's going to be going for the safer option, or if he's going to be feeling a little bit more confident in his internet stability. I know this might be a bit weird to say from me to say, but yeah, now that will the technical issues be not on his side, and maybe he will push for 3x. I wonder if he's going to retire at the end of this round, or if he's just going to be taking toward the line, as we see Otak right there with him. Half a second down, now onto the first flight, now onto the second flight, and Mime touches, so he's going to be out of contention, or is he? No. That looks a little bit...
takes the 2x. Interesting indeed. I think he just thought, you know what? 91 points, double that. That's 182 still. That's a lot of points to rack in. I think he just wants to go for the confidence in this case. I'm not sure he was what he was thinking about Mime perspective at this point. I saw Evan he saw he was going to be out of it, so he just flew off. But I guess he just went for the comfort. Otak, this time, keeping it calm, very collected, just go for the 2x. get those 182 points. That's a lot more than most people are going to get out of this step.
Yeah, interesting line there from Mime, as you were able to see during the wall right there. He went way high and tried to carry as much speed as he can on the downward hill. It's paid off pretty well so far. Managed to get back into the middle of the field as we get onto the ice. A little bit of the slow down the dirt there for Energize. Unfortunately, some people going over the snow. Same thing for Wosile, and that will mean he drops a couple of positions. Evon out of nowhere managing to actually get up to second place with that great ice section, and he's now catching up to Mime on the staging grass before the second plastic part. So yeah, solid start, a solid mid-sector for Evon right here on lap number 1 of this second round. Wosile still in P3 despite having touched a little bit of the penalty snow. Moving on to the identity. Oh, that's a huge crash for Evon. Not getting the slide, getting a little bit too early, and that's going to be a full stop pick in F. Snow has already retired. We might see a retirement from Evon coming in. Razi with a good identity as well, moving up into second place.
Yeah, and we get to see all of those switches already, but we get to see another contender, Mime, very confident on front. I think he's already seeing the potential that these 2x rounds so far going very well for him. He has a very comfortable lead, and I'm thinking, like, if he goes through his mind, he knows OTAC has already finished. He's probably, and his car already shows as well. I think he sees now, I think he wants to go for those high multipliers. I'm really expecting him to just go and just do a bit of a dive for the end part as well, maybe making it more fabulous as well. But I do believe, unless he has those connection issues still, I don't see Mime why he wouldn't be like, okay, I'm just miles ahead of everybody, so I should be confident enough to go for those high multipliers. And as we see, Razi, Wosile, and Hydra, they're behind him, but he's in a no man's land, and now it's all up to Mime as he goes for the identity, takes it. No DNF so far, and he decides to cancel it, giving the multiplier to Razi. And this just shows Mime is going for that high multiplier. He's confident, he sees he has the pace, he's shown it 2 rounds in a row. And well, Razi gets a 63 doubled. Good step for him, very solid. He will take it with pride on his front as well, and let's see who will get the next one.
So, third level 2 multiplier up for grabs, and yeah, Mime, well, the last time we checked before we actually went live, Mime improved his overall record. He was in the low 209.3s. He was one of the only players overall, bar just Team DLC, but overall to be underneath the 209s. The next player, the next challenger player on the leaderboard was Evon, and he was in the 210s. So yeah, he's pretty confident in his space on this map right now. Following Dofal, taking a bit of grass on the way in. Link going over to the snow. He's going to slow down dramatically. Mime managing to keep it 2 wheels on the curb, not on the snow, managing to get some supreme speed out of that. But Evon with that exit, managing to get even more speed than Mime, and moving up into the lead. Hydra in P3 with Dofalt in P4, battling with MiQuattro. And yeah, big mistakes already from Solja, Cap, and Revo, it seems like. Exotica at the tail end of the leading group.
Yeah, and as we come up to the identity, it's going to be a very crucial point here. Everybody's getting it interestingly. So far, no mistakes as far as I can see. All of the top 8 got it very clean, so there's still a battle for it. But Evon having a bit of a lead, so he's... But I do see that Hydra deciding to DNF, so it seems that he was like, okay, I have a bit too much of a gap, I'm gonna get out of this and let the others battle it out, I'm gonna go for something else, as Mime and Evon are currently very much in front, and it seems that it's gonna be between the 2 poles who want to go for that 2x, but we already know Mime, I do believe he really wants to go for that high multiplier. Why wouldn't he? Because OTAC has already finished, so he could get a massive lead in front of him, as Evon still keeping up with him, and may have people making so many mistakes that Link is the only one that is in general vicinity of them. Now, here comes the question. Does Evon go for it? Does Mime go for it eventually still? So it's up to the polls to decide who gets the multiplier. Oof. I feel like Mime making a bit of a mistake there, so he's giving it over to Evon, deciding not to go for it. Mime also not deciding to go for it, so this is Link's double to take, and he does get it. So Link gets the 2x multiplier, and it seems Mime and Evon, yeah, they are gonna go for those high ones. They are definitely confident. They don't want to give OTAC that comfort that, yeah, you took the 2x, well, we're gonna go for a bit more than you.
Yeah, they're feeling a little bit lucky, I feel like, the 2 Polish drivers, but yeah, it is of course up to them to decide when they should call it and when they decide to go, okay, now it's time to actually bring the points. I don't really want to have to do with 1x. And for me, the best case, well, the biggest question mark I should say is Evon. Evon currently sitting on 65 points for himself, and currently second best in terms of times of TMGL Challenger, just behind Mime. But do you think that if Mime finds, Mime goes for a 5x multiplier and he gets denied every time, do you think that Evon should be going for the lower 3 or 4x to try and get some decent points on the board and try to make up for maybe third step, trying to pick up the slack from last week, so to speak?
Well, it's hard to say as well. Of course, I feel like after his performance today, I feel like he's feeling very confident as well, and I don't see why he wouldn't want to go for those higher multipliers. Of course, at some point you take what you can, but I feel like Mime and Evon both are currently looking at this like we are both very fast. So one of us either gets the 5x or the other one gets the 4x, and I'm sure both of them would be fine with either. Of course, 5x would be better, but walking out with a 4x and a 5x with 60 plus points, that's a big point grab, especially for Mime, who would be so happy with it because he would increase his lead over Otech even more. And I do believe if he gets a 4x or even a 3x, I think he will be the first player to get into 4-digit points, as I think he will get over the 1,000 point mark as well.
In the meantime, we're following along Evon, battling for P3 versus Hydra. Hydra having a bit of a slow exit from the ice part, so he will let Evon have that third place for now. Also, Energize dropping a lot of speed over the stadium grass compared to Mime, so Mime pulls a gap of around 0.6 of a second, but we're expecting him to go for bigger multipliers, so he might choose to not go for it. We're going over the identity now. Energize versus Evon, and Energize makes the first mistake. He's the first to buckle under pressure. Evon doesn't go for it. Mime, let's actually see if he does go for it. It doesn't seem like it, and it's going to be Hydra versus Fegli and Cap. Fegli barely misses out on another 2x. Hydra managing to hold him up by 0.02 of a second, and that will allow him to score 124 points at the end of this round.
Yeah, well, Fegli going for that 2x, I feel like would have been a bit of a waste. I think at this point, for his perspective, he should just go for it. But of course, he has 6 points to get a bit of a double. But as we are going into the first 3x as well, so now we get to see the strategy. Was Mime just keeping away from the 2x's and wanting to go for the 3x, or is he going with this trigram? Is he going for that 5x? As everybody else is hunting very hard as well, as we see already. No major mistakes. The entire pack is still together with me. Quattro making a big of a mistake as well, so he's falling behind. Revo flying off from the CP as well. So this is now the pack that we are looking for. Mime, we are seeing a carbon copy. Mime again in the lead with Evon trading. This is like a carbon. Oh, Mime making a mistake. So first mistake of many to come, maybe. So maybe that strategy at the moment, going for those high multipliers, maybe it's not the best, but of course, this is the first 3x, so a bit early to say, and we haven't even gotten to the identity yet, as we get to see all of the drivers go in, everybody getting it clean as far as I can see, no big mistakes from the top, and we get a best lap from Evon, but that's a consolation for now.
Yeah, unfortunately, there were quite a few mistakes that happened, and no slide on the part of Vostile. We had Mime, of course, with the touch in the stadium grass part, which sent him down pretty far down the order. Now he's back up to P3. Energize taking a bit of the penalty dirt on the way into the grass hump, so it's going to be Mime taking over second place. We're now back to a Polish 1-2 with a bit of a dirt penalty in on the entry of the ice for Mime. He loses so much speed. Look at this. We've got Snow coming back into the frame. We've got Cap coming back into the frame as well. Evon's got a gap of around half a second. Oh, that clip from Energize is going to be very costly. He keeps it on the black stuff, but it's not going to be enough for him to be able to catch back up the order. Snow also touching a little bit, so it's going to be promoting Mime up into second position. 8/10 behind his fellow countryman Evon. Let's just see if they decide to just call it a day and go for 3x, or if they are not and gonna try to go potentially for 4x. Evon goes for the first ring, second ring for Evon being cleared, and it seems as though the Polish player, former Grand League player, is going to take it with the 3x right here. 65 points scored over the first 4 races will turn it to 195 at the end of this step for Evon.
Yeah, that's very interesting to you. You see also Mime committed to the end. He didn't just fly off or take a different line, he committed to it. So it seems that Mime is also now thinking, okay, I'm now getting to the high multipliers. I should be now taking whatever I can, because whatever I get now is basically going to be a lot more points than Otak as well. And as I mentioned before, if he triples his points even, he's going to go into over 1,000 points in the season, and that's going to be a considerable lead over Otak, as well as we see already all of the pack together. Mikotra again falling behind on the first lap. He has a bit of a tendency, but again, people have been struggling with this ice, and it's gonna be a very interesting to see. No big mistakes so far, everybody getting it clean, but the turn afterwards is where it decides. Any big mistakes, no clips, the pack keeps on running. Everybody's within a half a second of each other, so this is gonna be a very close first lap. So as we each edge closer to the identity, this is only going to be more and more intense, as people are going to be seeing caps are getting smaller, people are pushing more, that 3x is looming, the multipliers are getting higher. Fegli having a bit of a rough ride, cap crashing right there. Many people making mistakes, as Fegli is 5th, but Mime and Energize in front as well, as many people slide out and make mistakes.
Yeah, Mime and Energize managing to keep it really close out there over the course of the first lap. Fegli managing to, you said that he had a bit of a rough patch, but his identity was pretty clean, and he took advantage of the mistakes of others to move up into P4. Any mistake from, mistakes from the 3 players could definitely come at any moment, and yeah, that would be the cue for him to, well, to score a measly 18 points, but it would still be a somewhat, a bit of a retirement round. Well, that happened when, as I wanted to not do the misspelling, but yeah, I was going to say multiplier round, but yeah, unfortunately for him, he retired. Energize having a slow exit from the ice. He's going to be down in P3 and even further down the order, P5, P6, P7 even. Mime now has got a clear road ahead of him, 0.8 of a second ahead of Snow. Now, the big question, is he going to go for 4x, or is he going to just call it a day? Let's actually check on him. Through the identity we go. First ring, moving on to the second ring, managing to get the transition just right, and he's going to take to the finish and get that 3x multiplier. 68 points over the course of the first 4 races for Mime, which will be turning, well, I'm going to let you do the calculation now, or just...
204 points is the total for him as well, so it's going to be a very interesting, very solid step as well, and that means Mime is officially the first person to reach the 1,000-point limit as well, if my math is right as well. So, but now comes the interesting part. We are in the 4x. There's still a lot of people with a lot of points. Nixorica, he doesn't have a multiplier still, and he's looking very juicy. He does make an early mistake, but it's just the start, and there's a lot of people still. Vosal, 50 points. Would love a 4x or a 5x again. And you have so many people still hunting for it. But there's only 2 spots left, and there's plenty of people looking out for those spots.
Yeah, indeed, and also Energize, another man sitting on 54 points, which could very well do with a multiplier for himself. But we also got the lower point scorers, such as, well, unfortunately Revo DNF, but people like Fegli and Solja. 6 points for Fegli, 20 points for Solja, who can play a little bit of troublemakers and deny those big multipliers for the people that actually want to get those in, get even bigger scores. For instance, Energize could actually get north of 216 points at the end of this step if he manages to actually get that win. But he's going to have to contend with plenty of people, such as Fegli, Solja. He's also got Wosal to contend with, and we also see Dolphald and Snow coming back into the frame as we enter lap 2.
Yeah, and this is a close race. Vosal going for the wider line, getting more speed, and oh, that is paying off so well. Going for that wider line, he's already up to second, right on the heels of Fegli. That wide line on that half pipe there, working so many wonders, and he's in the lead now, going for that 4x, and he would love nothing more than to get that 4x. He's been hunting for those high multipliers throughout the entire season now. He's been only subjected to 1 2x, so now being in the lead and only Dolphald and Fegli right behind him as well, but they are still in relative close distance as well, and we are only getting closer and closer to that identity, and I do feel like this is the part where it will matter as well. Vosal, Dolphald, both of them players who are looking to get those high multipliers. Who will get it? This identity will land it. Vosal getting it nicely. Dolphald going a bit lower. Vosal has a good angle, but can he hold it? Yes, he can. Vosal with that 4x finally getting a high multiplier that he's been looking forward to. And I feel like he's going to be so happy because he just almost doubled his point cap from the last 3 steps.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be very relieving and a big boost to his chances overall. As we're moving on to the 8th and final round, the 5 times multiplier level 5 finalists were already underway. 9 players, a couple of them with big point scores. 44 for Dofald, Nixotica, and Energize with 54 points each. It's going to be pretty critical for those guys.
Yeah, and I'm actually very interested now. Begley has been looming in that multiplier around so many times. Are we going to see one of those miraculous 5x snipes from the person who is at the bottom of the leaderboard? He's pretty close, and as I say it, he does clip, so unfortunate for him, he's not going to be able to be in contention, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be very high spicy matchups in the front, as Energize and Dofald both with a lot of points at the front. And I do feel that at the moment the most unfortunate player is Nixotica. He's so close still, but all he would love is a 5x. He's the only player, MiQuattro making a mistake, but Nixotica still doesn't have a multiplier, and a 5x would be so sublime to get in this step right before we end the first half of the season, as he's having good pace, but at the moment it seems like Dofald, Energize, Soldier are the ones contesting for that 5x.
Yeah, and we're already on the final round of this step. Unfortunately, we had a few retirements. 15 points for Snow, 10 for Revolution, 19 for MiQuattro, 25 for Cap. We can see Energize pulling a gap as he enters the eye. Soldier with a great entry compared to Dofald, who's lost a lot of speed, touches the CP. It seems as though it's going to be out for this round here. Nixotica sliding through into P4, quite a ways away. Fegley in 3rd position. Energize having a gap of around 0.2 of a second compared to Soldier. Now moving on to this second plastic part. Look at the low dive here on the entry. Then make sure to keep ground contact with the plastic value, or maybe doing a bit of a wiggle if you got a bit more speed, but this time it's managing to go perfectly. Then the tech section. Down to the left, then on the right, now the Identity. Energize, 54 points, Soldier, 20 points, the Identity will decide it all. Soldier flunks it, Energize flunks it as well. He missed the CP, it seems. Oh, did he miss the CP? I don't think he did. Oh, I nearly had a bit of a scare there. He did it, and he scores 270 points. That was me. I thought he actually missed the CP on my screen, so yeah, GG to Energize, scoring 270 points and winning the step with this. Moving up to P1 in the standings of the step, and that concludes Step 4 of TMGLC. Quick league recap: 1,006 points for Mime in the lead. Otak second with 867. Hydra third with 552. Evon fourth with 506. 430 for Energize in P5. 407 for Warsaw in P6. Cap 7th with 377, and MiQuattro down to P8 with 352.
Yeah, and we see this overall table, and there's only one word. It's even closer than before. Previously it was 7th, 8th, and 9th, but now the 5th and 6th are also getting a bit close, and the gaps in the midfield are closing up as the front are getting more and more away from everybody. But it's just Mime. Mime having a good step again. I do believe he's the only player now who has gotten a multiplier every single step. MiQuattro was one of them as well, but unfortunately MiQuattro now loses the streak. So Mime overall consistent, multipliers galore, and the only player now to get that 1,000-point mark. 4 digits on the board. It's just Mime and Otak show at the moment, as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, it's definitely the big story of the season, Mime and Otak. We do have plenty of battles, of course, going throughout the field over the course of the ranking. Well, we were able to see the score table a little bit before, but Energize and Wosal still pretty close, Cap pretty close as well, and we still find a bit of a tight fight for the last places in the TMGLC final. Of course, we're only halfway through the season, but 352 for MiQuattro in P8, 346 for Razi in P9. And single good step for Razi or single mistake and bad step for MiQuattro could really flip the tables around and even promote a few other people into contention for those final places in the playoffs.
Yeah, and as I mentioned we already mentioned briefly in the step, Wosal, he finally got it. He's been trying to get those multipliers, and now he had 207 points. Now he has 407, basically doubling his points with one good step that he was looking for, and that's such a good step to take into the second half of the season. And everybody else in that midfield, it's only getting closer and closer, and all we know is that Launchpad as well. that map is gonna be until the end, so you're gonna see plenty of high rises and a lot of plane tickets to either winning town or, unfortunately, quickly going down under.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that's it from us. But, well, before we wrap this up, if you want to actually promote yourself, social media, what you do, and, well, whatever, the floor is yours, Critty.
Well, there's not much to really plug. I have a Twitter. Recently, I do. If there's something you do want to check out as well, I recently made a bit of a tribute, a bit of a motivational video for a TMGL contender spam as well on YouTube as well. So you can find it under my YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, I feel like I did a good job with the video as well. And overall, there's not much to follow. I have a Twitch, I have a Twitter, same name. If you want to follow, you're welcome to. But other than that, I feel like, if anything, you should be tuning in, because we're gonna have a very amazing TMGL step to come. I'm so excited for that.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, if you want to follow me, if you're new around here and want to follow me and keep up with all the news and keep up with whenever I go live next time on this channel or other channels, twitch.tv/TMGGeek and @TMGGeek on Twitter. Now, quick note about the global cast for tonight's step. It's going to be over on Trackmania on twitch.tv/Virtual. However, Virtual feels a little bit sick. His voice is still not really recovered. And so it will be Jake, who was here casting step 2 weeks ago, who's going to be taking over. So we're going to send you over to his channel, to twitch.tv/Virtual right now for the step 4. Of course, there are a lot of streams. !main event in the chat. Trackmania Grand League/watch for all the POV streams. I will be casting for McLaren Shadow over on twitch.tv/McLaren Shadow. As for myself, I'll see you on Wednesday for the weekly show alongside Sinasapu, and of course next week for step 5 of TMGL Challengers. This has been it from the official Trackmania channel for the Challengers, and see you in the next step. Godspeed, people!
Have a...
And